Hey everyone, it's Kyle, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Cloverfield paradox, which was originally called God's particle. The film tries to explain the origins of how the Cloverfield universe all started, with a group of scientists testing an energy device who inadvertently rip a hole in space, and true terror is released upon them. The trailer for this movie I knew was going to be inserted during the Super Bowl, and I was very excited to see it. And then I discovered that at the very end of it, it said it was going to be streaming on Netflix after the game. And when I heard it was going to be on Netflix, I was a little bit put off. That usually means it's not great, or the production company feels it should not be shown in theaters. And unfortunately, the Cloverfield paradox does fall into that category. If you guys have been following me for some time, you know just how much I love 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's one of my personal favorite theatrical experiences I've ever had. I absolutely love this film. I've seen it at least 15 times, and I still really love it. Basically just as much. I'll never forget it. It's, in my mind, one of my personal favorite movies of the decade. I think it's a masterpiece. And I also really enjoyed the original Cloverfield, which turned 10 this year. I think it's a very good monster film. Not as good as 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think this movie definitely set the bar for it. But I was so excited for a third Cloverfield movie. For me, I think the first half hour of the movie is great. I was compelled. I was very intrigued because the concept was really interesting. It has some clever tie-ins to the Cloverfield universe, definitely some cool Easter eggs that I noticed. However, after the first 30 minutes of the film, which I think are great, it unfortunately becomes a combination of classic sci-fi horror films including Alien, John Carpenter's The Thing, Prometheus. There's a very specific scene that I swear to God perfectly reminded me of a scene from that film, and especially Event Horizon. There are parts of this movie, guys, I swear to you, that felt like Event Horizon 2.0. I would definitely say one of the better aspects to this movie, and one of the aspects that I think is going to appeal to a broader audience, is the cast. It's very diverse. However, the characters, unfortunately, are not really well developed, except for one character which is named Hamilton. I can't pronounce the actress's name because I simply don't want to butcher it, but I do think her character is undoubtedly given the most amount of development. But she also goes through a variety of emotions throughout the film, and I think she really pulled them off. We have Daniel Bruhl in the film, who was also in *Inglourious Basterds* and in Captain America: Civil War, and I thought he also did a really good job. That being said, though, the characters themselves are extremely one-note. We have the doctor who gives the exposition. We have the technician where, if this person dies, we can't do it, and then all of a sudden they come up with something that feels very cliche that's going to save their lives, because obviously we can't leave the characters hanging. We also have the commander who has very suspicious tendencies and thinks maybe he's working with, the Russian government or something like that. And then we also have the guy who is literally there to be the comic relief in any given situation, no matter how dark, disturbing, or creepy it gets. And after an extremely shocking moment that I felt was genuinely terrifying, he tries to play it as a joke. There's another character that they introduce, I'd say maybe about 45 minutes into the movie, in a scene that, again, I found genuinely shocking. And we start to learn about her character, and it's interesting. Like, I actually want to know more about her. However, the film never took the time to create a very successful payoff to it. And that leads to what is, in my opinion, the biggest problem with this movie. And I think, universally, it's probably the biggest issue. This movie leaves you with so many unanswered questions. It started to piss me off after a while. There must have been at least 50 major questions brought up in the film, and they only answered like 10 of them. Not only that, but there were certain parts of the movie that I thought to myself, wait, there's a scene missing, or there's something that's not there that should be there to help explain what happened to that character, or what's going to happen to this character. There were so many inconsistencies with the film's script that I truly believe they just came off as plot holes. There's a lot of things in the movie that simply don't make sense, and the filmmakers, I guess, didn't intend to explain it, because either they felt we knew what they were, or they're deliberately not trying to do that so that we can just theorize it. I don't know which choice it was, but either way, all it did was just annoy me after a while. It's so shocking because I was entertained throughout the entire film, but I really feel like a lot of that entertainment was based off of the idea that it had a really cool concept. The movie looked good, and it had a really good score by Bear McCreary, who also scored 10 Cloverfield Lane. But it felt like the film was leading to something, or leading to multiple different areas. And it decided to go down a very confusing route, while also leaving a lot of questions unanswered, which then leads to incoherence. And you're just left with a large semblance of sequences that were put together in an effort to try to make a movie that tied into the Cloverfield universe. This is the first installment. I know a lot of people complain about 10 Cloverfield Lane not necessarily feeling like a Cloverfield movie. But the difference is the 10 Cloverfield Lane had 3 characters to develop, and they were developed well. And while the movie had a ton of questions, every single question I had from it was answered within that 97-minute runtime. This movie absolutely did not do that. It left so many questions, so many key moments, and, characters in peril just hanging in the balance. I have this feeling that there was an enormous amount of this film that was cut. This type of movie should have been at least 2 hours long in order to fully answer all the questions. But the fact that it's only 98 minutes, you have to cram in so much character development, and after a while, you just stop caring, because they're just so one note. Guys, honestly, this movie really did disappoint me, and it's crazy, again, because I was entertained by this movie. I honestly, I did not move from my seat, but I feel, like I said before, a lot of that was leading up with anticipation. But that anticipation just never really led to anything new or original, because it felt like such a mishmash of other sci-fi horror films. Overall, guys, The Cloverfield Paradox is a film that was a big letdown for me because of just how much I loved the previous Cloverfield film as well as the first one. It does have some intriguing sequences, it does have a couple of frightening moments, and I do think the acting in the movie is really good, but the characters are very one-note, the story is very forgettable, and there are so many questions that again were left unanswered. It's truly mind-boggling. I'm still a little iffy on the grade I want to give this movie, but as of right now, I'm going to give The Cloverfield Paradox a C. So if you guys watched The Cloverfield Paradox, what did you think about it? I'd like to hear your comments, so please send them in the comment section below. Tell me, what is your favorite Cloverfield movie in this franchise? I'm hoping Overlord, which I hear is going to be the 4th Cloverfield film, will definitely resolve some of the conflicting unanswered questions from this movie. And I'm hoping it's going to be better, because this is definitely the worst of the Cloverfield films so far. It's not a train wreck of a film in my mind, but it's definitely far from great. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, and stay tuned.